Hi, everyone. Hope that this message finds you well. In this week's Parsha, we have a commandment, voted back, the commandment of Dveikus, the commandment of clinging to the Almighty. Next week is the last week before Elul. How do we go ahead and cling to the Almighty during this special time on the calendar, this month of Elul? Next Shabbos, we bless the month of Elul, and then the next day we have Rosh Chodesh Elul. But besides the calendar, how do we fulfill this commandment of clinging to God? God's not physical. Can't go ahead and cling to God. So there are two approaches laid out by the Rebbe from the Middle Ages, a compilation of the 613 commandments and their elucidation. Dveikus, or clinging to God, can be done in two ways according to Chazal. We follow in God's footsteps. We follow what the Almighty does. The example that's given is visiting the sick. Now that is representative of many other mitzvos with regards to interpersonal relationships and taking care of those in need. But the fact that visiting the sick is the paradigm, that's also quite meaningful. Another way of fulfilling the commandment of clinging to God is by fostering relationships and developing one's acquaintances with scholars. Scholars are a portal to scholarship and to the wisdom of the Almighty and the wisdom of the Torah. So we can cling to God by going ahead and clinging to those individuals, those families, and the Torah that comes along with that. And the Torah that comes along with that, so says the Chafetz Chaim, that you have a choice. You have two social gatherings. In one of them, you know that you're going to have such levity that it will be leading to lashon hara, or gossiping, illicit speech. In the other one, you know that you're going to learn something. There's going to be some words of Torah that are spoken. So the Chafetz Chaim says it's a fulfillment of this mitzvah that we learn about in this week's Parsha of Dveikus to go ahead and choose the event, the social gathering with such scholarship present. We ought to realize that the pandemic has gotten in the way of a lot of this. Right now, you and I are going through a time when the pandemic is making somewhat of a comeback, and we hope and pray that it stays where it is and it doesn't continue to infringe upon our lives. But there are many who have not been fully connected, who aren't fully connected. There are many in our shul who don't have the access that they're accustomed to having with myself or with the shul. There are many who don't have that kind of relationship with teachers that used to be in person and they're no longer in person. We're missing on this opportunity to connect to scholarship, and in some way, we're missing out on this ideal way or in this manner of fulfilling the mitzvah of Dveikus, voted back, one of the 613 commandments. It's important for us to realize that connection between people is very important, and connection between us and our loved ones is very important. Their loved ones, past, present, and future. And if this commandment, if this week's Parsha tells us about connecting to the Almighty, even though the Almighty is not physical in any way, then perhaps it means that we can connect to our loved ones who are no longer with us. So for myself this week, I observed the 20th yahrzeit of my sister. And for many, as the high holidays are slowly coming upon us, and as people think about their loved ones, as we are wont to do during difficult times like a pandemic, so we realize that we can connect. We can connect to God, which is a command. We have to connect to God. That's Dveikus, clinging to the Almighty. We're not commanded to connect to our loved ones. We don't have that same level of connection or gratitude, but we can connect to that which isn't physical, as symbolized and as represented by this mitzvah, Votidbak. So here at some may be Hashem's will that we fulfill the mitzvah of clinging to the Almighty in this way, in terms of taking care of those in need, following God's ways, connecting to scholars and scholarship, and also learning from this, that we can connect to those who are no longer with us as well. And we look at their positive attributes, try to connect to those positive attributes, to their stories, to their memories, try to become better people, and in that some small way, cling to them as well. And the whole Jewish people and the Almighty, God's people, along with God, this marriage that has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. We can unite, we can cling to each other, we can be a part of this collective effort, and we can have a greater collective effort by clinging to the Almighty with this mitzvah of Dveikus. Everyone have a wonderful Shabbos.